Hello guys, welcome back to a new part of our series. This is the seventh part actually. I'll be honest with you, I never thought I'm gonna get this far. I never really thought I'm going to really start a YouTube channel. I thought about it a lot of times. I always thought it's gonna just stay a dream, but yeah, here we are doing an actual series. So in the last video, we talked a lot about the bevel modifier and the subdivision modifier. So I said, hey, let's actually work a little more, right? So in this video, we will actually learn about curves. Mainly, the topic of this video are gonna be the curves and how to model with them, how to play around with them. I think it's pretty useful. You can use them in a lot of different ways to model, and I think they're really fun to play around with. So, without further ado, let's go with our topic, which is the curves, right? So, you might have seen whenever you edit an object in Blender, this curve, right? And you were thinking maybe what we can really do with them. Well, one of the things we can do with these, and let me just, to move your cursor, right? So this is a cursor. To move it wherever you like, so select the object and then shift click right, and you'll be right there. Another method I showed you, and it's more precise, but it's not usually, the most useful in, like, if you want to just put the cursor on a body, this is way easier, is to select the vertex and then shift S and cursor to selected, and this is more precise. Also, another thing, if you want your cursor to be back in the center point of your Blender file, press Shift C, and that will center it back, and you can just add objects in the middle of your scene with no worries. So shift right click on this body, and what we will want is to add a Bezier curve. So what Bezier curves are, well, curves really, created out of vertices. So what this really means, first, vertices, you can have three, actually no, way more now, five types of vertices, right? The one you really want to use is aligned, and the reason for it is really it's easier to model with them. So let's press S, Y, and 0 to bring all these vertices. You can select each of the vertices, is what I'm trying to explain. So you can move only one of them if you really wish to do that. And if you go to choose what mode you want your vertex to be in, you press V, right? So you select the vertex, press V, and then you can choose. And if you choose vector, for example, you will be able to move this and the rest will stay the same, right? So that's kind of the difference. The aligned one is basically your whole edge, like your whole influence vertex, let's call it that, um, moves together, basically. Everything you do to one of the vertices will influence the other two, and so on and so forth. And so, if we scale this down, so S and X to both, right? And if you move this vertex on Y, so G and Y, see what it does? It's basically playing with your curve, with the way the curve will bend. And that's really useful. I think this actually, no, I extruded by mistake. I'm sorry. Or did I? What happens here? For some reason, this is not, okay, now it's aligned. For some reason it wasn't. a second ago. See, this is how you can get tricks, but this is easier to spot than, you know, the other things I showed you before. Okay, um, so this way you can basically play around with your curves, right? So a thing you will want to do is try to keep as uh, you know, as a little number of influence vertices as possible, because you want to be able to play around with your curve easier. And uh, if you have like 5 of these curves, it's going to be way harder for you. Usually what I do is have 3, right? So 2 that are going to be the extremities of the curve, and by pressing Control, actually no, if you press Control R, it's not going to work here. So if you select both the influence vertices and then right click, you will be able to subdivide and basically create another influence vertex, which you know, you'll be able to kind of control the middle of our curve, and that's exactly what we want. Good. For now, let me scale this in a little bit, and then not right, sorry, R X 90. Good. Then R Z 90. That's perfect. And Control 3 to see it from the front of the train. Let's go into X-ray mode for a second. And actually, let me get a little like this. Good. Let's move our curve this way. And here's what we'll do. We will select these 2 vertices, then G and Z, and this looks awful right now. So let's try to bring these SZ0 to the same level, right? And if you select just the vertex in the center, right, the other 2 will move along with it. So let's put this around here. You're going to understand exactly what I'm doing in just a second. This is not something really I can explain. So right now I'm just trying to, you know, G and not move it on the X at all, because the X would be this way. And then G and Shift X again, G and Y. And actually, let's put this to S and Y and 0. Okay, G, Shift X again, and select this vertex, G and Z. Just play around until your curve really looks the way you want it. And let's say we want it like this. Okay, it's not perfect yet. We'll edit it a little bit more, but um, just so we can show you. If you go to the data of the object, right? So you have to have the curve selected, and you go to the data. You will have a new menu, right? If I select the cylinder, that menu is not there anymore. We'll have the vertex menu. It's a little different, and we'll talk about it some other time. But if you press on a curve, it will have some other things, right? And what you can do in this menu, the main thing is that you can change the resolution, which means your curve can become smoother. It's basically kind of a subdivision surface of the curves in a way, right? And you can go to geometry and depth. What that will mean is that you'll create geometry around it. So you'll basically have this. Now, and fill caps will want it selected. The reason is right here, without fill caps, the ends are gonna basically be opened. We don't really need the fill caps right now, it's mostly to demonstrate, but usually if you can see the end of your curve, you want that to be selected. Okay, so having this selected, let's go Control 3 and back into X-ray mode. Let's GNZ this so that it can go in. Good. This looks not good. I didn't see it. Let's actually move this a little bit down as well because it was showing a big difference there. And move this a little down. And actually, let's move this on the Y a little bit, this on the Z, because we will want to create a little bit more. Also, to basically influence the curvature of the curve, no pun intended, I don't think there was a pun anyway, you have to scale this down. What this does basically, the more it extends, the more it basically influences the curvature of our curve here. So we don't really want to do that. We don't want to influence it as much. Also, this can become something like this. And yeah, from here you just kind of have to play around, see what's good for you. Really, this can be something like this. And actually, let me delete this vertex. In this one, you don't need to think too much about the edge selection. You don't need the edge to dissolve them. They will basically kind of dissolve automatically anyway. So yeah, see the way these are made right now, right? Almost these two are intersecting, and that makes the curve become way more straight, like almost create a 90 degrees angle. And again, that's because of the influence, and that's one of the things you have to understand about curves and how to play around with them. The um, handles, that's what they're called finally. So the handles basically will influence how they bend, and you want to learn um, how to bend them how you want from as little of them as possible. Okay, so um, this will kind of happen in time, right? The first time I really did anything with curves, I was a disaster, really. I basically was using a lot of handles because I thought, hey, the more control, the better, right? That's usually how it should be. But in this case, it was horrible because really, I was just forcing a lot of mistakes on myself. Because with a lot of handles, you will have a harder time um, modifying the geometry of the curve, and that's really, really annoying. So let's save this. Don't forget to save, by the way, from time to time. Uh, it's really annoying when Blender will crash on you and you have nothing saved. So I duplicated this with Shift D, by the way, because we will change geometry. We will need for some of this to go a little bit more in, right? Something like this. And now uh, we can do an Alt D to this one, an X, and move it more or less to the same distance. Of course, actually, you know what? Just to practice more, we can go to modifiers, right? And apply a mirror modifier. And that's something I don't think I showed you yet. You can, so we are mirroring on the right direction, on the X, right? But what we need to do is select the mirror object, which would be our first Bezier curve. Right, so doing the mirror modifier for this one, we will apply it, and you have to apply the mirror first. For the mirror, the rotation for this one, So basically, our curve will know what to do, like where to mirror. And what I'm saying by that is we will select this body to be the center we're mirroring about. How you do that is by selecting a mirror object, right? Right now, we are mirroring basically based on our center. Um, Actually, you can't see it right now. I think if I uh, do this or rotate, yeah. So our center is right here, right? And basically, when we mirror, let's do it again. It's mirroring by that, by this origin of our body, and that's not okay. What we want to mirror by is by this Bezier curve. Of course, we could change the origin. So by pressing on your body, right click, and then go to set origin, origin to geometry, and now the origin is gonna be at our geometry's center. Um, but we're gonna mirror about this body anyway because it's what we want. And I'll kind of explain. So basically, actually explain now. If you will parent this body to this body, right? If you are going to mirror by this, it's going to always stick that way. Because no matter what you do afterwards, if they're parented together, and that's a very important thing, these will always move with this together. So let's actually do this. I'm going to do this at our animation part, but for now, if you select so this body first, and then this one with shift left click, and then control P, and it will bring up a menu, right? The parenting menu, and you have to press on object keep transform. And what this does, if I will move this body in the center, it will move all three. If I move only these two, it will not move the other one, because basically that's the parent and these are the children. So this will move the other two, but those two will never move the parent. That's how these things work. So having this, another thing we can learn now is how to link bodies. If you select these and now shift left click on the main one that has a mirror modifier on the y-axis by the cylinder, as you can see on the other side. Actually, let me go into X-ray mode so you can see it a little better. Right? You can press Ctrl L. That's very important. And you can link the object, right? You can link materials. So basically, every single time you change a material for one of these cables, actually tubes in this case, you will change the materials for the other two as well. But what we do want is to copy the modifiers. So what this will mean is that this this will copy the modifier that this has, which is good, but there's one thing, it deletes the other modifier we had before. So we have to add it back in, and again, by the x-axis and by the Bezier curve. And then we have it on both sides. And that's great, actually. Good. So we learned quite a bit. Um, don't get scared if it's too much information. That's okay. Stop the video, go back, watch it again if you need to. Um, that's fine. Again, this is the first time you might see this, so it can get scary. Just take your time and work on this kind of things more and more, and that's how you develop the skills, really. Um, okay, this being said, um, let's actually take this and get it. Okay, see, not having the X-ray on, it will create a lot of problems. Wait, I forgot. So let's make some edges here. I think 3 should do. Like this, S and Shift Z, and this doesn't look bad. I kind of like it. I'm not, the biggest fan necessarily of stuff like that in general, but I think in this case it looks pretty good. But I will want yeah, like this. Okay, I press on the on right click, I think. Also here, let's bevel this like this, and yeah, this looks pretty fine. Um, Again, adding bevels to round corners and adding basically detail to our models. Great. So, this being done, there's one more thing I wanted to do, and that's this uh, bar right here, right? Which is actually easy to do. And again, we will use the curves because they're really easy to work with, especially when you want to do these cable-like, tube-like things. There's no reason not to use them. Okay, let's see. I'm going to Shift S. So select this face, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then add the Bezier curve. Tab to go into edit mode, and actually we can just spray A, X, and delete the vertices. And we're still in edit mode. Okay, we have nothing there basically, but we're in edit mode. So how we will create new vertices for our curves is by pressing Ctrl, then right click, and that created one vertex right there, and then wherever you want, again Control, right click, and it's creating another one basically. But as you can see, they're not aligned. They're gonna be vectored. So align them. Okay, and now what we'll actually need is to go back from not back, but out of edit mode, R, Z, and 90. Actually, RZ minus 90. It didn't really matter, but it bugged me. And now selecting everything, SZ0, and that's okay. G and Z, turn off the proportional editing, like this, should be good. Okay, okay. So having this selected, we created the depth, just like I showed you earlier. Fill the caps, right? Because this time we're actually going to see it. And what we will want to do is have this, so control 3 to see from the front of the train, and basically we want it to be far enough from our main cylinder to be able to not intersect them, because we don't want that. So select this vertex, then G and X, and get it all the way up in the front, and then this vertex, G and X, all the way up here in the back. And now top view by pressing 7 on a numpad, and then select this and press E to extrude, and then Y and something like this, and then R and Z. And if you press 90 now, right, this is gonna be okay, right? Or at least it looks like it's okay. But as you can see, there's a problem here, and that's pretty weird, right? I mean, why would it do this? Well, that's because you have to pay attention where it's going to rotate, right? So by having this and rotating it to 90 degrees, it's gonna bring it up here. So basically, it's going to take this mesh and getting it through itself, which is why we have those imperfections there. So you have to pay attention to this. Press R, Z minus 90, and it's gonna be okay, right? Again, the fill caps. Uh, so there's apparently a bug in Blender, right? You have to make sure the fill caps will actually fill the extremities of our curves. And here we'll have a straight corner, which we don't want, right? So the way to fix this, really press R, Z, and then just slightly move this, then select the main vertex, and then scale it up. And what this does is basically going to play with your curve, but there's a problem here. If you do this, it's basically going to also round this part, which we don't want. So the way we fix this is by selecting both of these and then subdividing it with right click, selecting the subdivision, and then scaling this up basically. And then press only on this vertex, GY, get it up here, and then really these have to be on the same level. Actually, all three of them have to be on the same level, so which means really that I can move this a little backwards, like this should be okay, and this can just G, Y, and have it kind of like this, and Control 3 again. And actually, let's apply a mirror modifier to this curve on the y-axis, right? But it's gonna look really weird, and that's because we want it not by the origin, but by the cylinder. And doing this, we're going to basically have the same tube on both directions. And looking at our reference, which is the Hogwarts train, we're going to have that arc over the lid, basically. So Control 3 again, select this vertex and extrude till here, and that's because we did not activate clipping yet. Activate it now, go and G and Y, and that's it, and they will go together just fine. So let's scale this down a little bit. Actually, this vertex is the only one that has to be scaled, and let's go back with this just a bit. And to make this not so round, go G, not so straight, sorry, G, Y, and then somewhere over here, and also the arc, we want it a little more extended, right? So let's scale this on the Y a little bit, and look at this. This looks actually perfect. Then of course you can play around from the data with a depth as much as you want. I actually think this looks pretty fine, but you know, whatever suits you. So for me, it's 0.006 meters, but you can always change it to your liking. Good. Another thing we should do is actually add a cylinder here. So we're going to use both cylinders and curves. Also, before anything, let's change this to 16 vertices to simplify the geometry. What we will create are these small support cylinders or tubes, really, for the bar here. So let's actually scale this down, and then as Shift Z, and let's make it thinner. And then RX, and I think somewhere to like 60 degrees, which I press just 6, of course. 60 degrees should just be fine. Of course, I delete my object. That's a thing, at least for me. Actually, tell me in the comments if you guys ever have this problem. I always press either hide instead of G, either X instead of S. I don't know what's wrong with me, but apparently I have a problem with this. So let's get this down kind of about here and then move it on the Y, and let's see how it looks. It's not gonna look good from the first try. So GY a little more. Okay, it's intersecting it, but I think it's not bad. So press S, Z, and it's gonna be on the Z axis. This is gonna be the global axis, right? To scale the body on the local axis, meaning the axis from the point of view of the body itself, you press the axis twice. So if you press Z once, press it one more time, and now you're scaling the body on the Z-axis of the body. And let's get it a little down. G, Z, Z, and let's get it all the way in here. Z, Z, Z again, scale it down, and yeah, basically playing around with it. This is S, Z, Z, and let's shade auto smooth this, shade auto smooth the curves, and okay, basically this is okay, right? It looks good, it feels good, why not? So let's apply another modifier that we talked about actually, which is the array modifier. Or did we actually talk about it? I don't think I did. Uh, so the array modifier really is just duplicating your object, is a pretty nice modifier just to get some of the work out of our hands. Again, the problem really is that you will have this geometry in there when applying it, but making it for simple objects is really handy, so let's use it. Also, it's a really useful modifier. So what we get is how many bodies do we want, right? For right now, I put an 8 count, and um, here we basically tell it on which axis for it to duplicate our object, right? And this is the distance it's going to create, but it's the distance basically from I guess it's computing it from like one edge to the other. It's 1. So if you put like, let's say 2, it's going to have another cylinder thickness wise distance between the cylinders, if you understand. That's amazing. And now let's just put like, I don't know, let's go with 35 of them. Okay, and the GX, let's move it all the way up here actually. No, uh actually I want to see the reference. Oh, it's going all the way up till the front. Okay, good. GX all the way up here. Make sure not to intersect the parts that will not have this, right? And then you can just increase the count, and that's about it. We have the supporting cylinders there, and then we can select them, put another modifier on them, and that's gonna be the mirror modifier. And let's put it on the Y and select the cylinder, so it will always mirror by the cylinder. So also when we move these tubes being mirrored by the cylinder, they're always going to be at the exact same distance from this one's origin, which is pretty handy, again, especially in these kind of cases where You know, these body are supposed to be symmetrical to each other, and that's pretty nice. Let's also create some more tubes in the front, because we did say we want this, right? So we do want our lead to basically have I don't know, like a special look to it. And let's shift right click for our cursor to be right here. Actually, let's make it a little more accurate. So um, actually, I'm gonna select this vertex right here, and then Shift S, cursor to selected. That's good enough for me. Control 3 to see it from the front, and let's add a Bezier curve. Perfect. Um, okay, having this tab, delete the vertices we have so far, and control right click, control right click again. Take both of them, let's make them aligned, and then SZ0, and they are at the same exact level, which is perfect. Also, let's create the depth to again see it a little better. Something like that, and G and X. Actually, SX0, just in case they are not at the same X level. So to be at the same distance on the X-axis. It's what I'm talking about. Okay, they seem to be good. Again, go on the top, and let's actually think about this. Um, so I'm trying to think on how to do this. I could do something like this, really. And if that's the case, instead of making it like this, right, we will select all the vertices and move them on the Y a little bit. Also, scale them on the Y, like I think this should be okay. And I think we can do it from just two of these. RZ, I guess 90 should do, and then GX, and let's insert this. Perfect. Also, this should move, so it should rotate like this, which is minus 90, just as we saw earlier. And then let's scale this down a little bit. G and X, and get it in. Perfect. And scale this down again. And this looks okay. So what we will want to do is to use the spin tool, and that is actually not in the curve menu. So because of that, really, what we do need to do is to right click, so select the object, right click, and then convert to. We can convert this to curve, mesh, grease pencil, and curves. It's already a curve, we don't need it. These curves are different. It's basically for the hairs, but for right now, just know we need it to be a mesh. That's where the spin tool is. So this is a mesh now, and the way to see it, press tab for edit, and look at this. Our curve is now a mesh. Of course, we can go into edit mode, go to edge select mode, and we can select some of the edges, right? That will not affect too much our geometry, so think about it as well. And, you know, make it a little simpler. Have it a little more low poly, right? Perfect. Okay, so doing it, it's actually pretty simple. What we need to do is first we will put so the spin tool, basically what it does is create the spin by the origin of the body, right? Um, or actually in this case, I think it's by the cursor. So, you know, because we can move the cursor in the middle of our lead, which is by Actually, let me do this. So Shift C to put it in the origin. And now, so um, having this, so this is a mesh now, as you can see in the edit mode, right? We converted it. What we can do now really is spin it. And as you can see, I already selected the spin tool. So when you go into edit mode, you will want the spin that looks like a pie chart really, to be selected. And then A to select the entire body, and then select the spin tool. And then you have up here the spinning axis. So which axis do we spin on? Usually by default it's gonna come on Z. I already played around with it earlier, so it's going to be modified here. So you will want for our thing to be on the x-axis, but as you can see, if we're trying to do this, it's not gonna work. And the reason it's not gonna work really, it's because this is going to spin our object by the cursor. So wherever our cursor is, that's how our spinning tool will basically see the origin of our body, right? So, and that's because the origin of this body was set to origin to 3D cursor. I said it earlier, so you have to set this, right? And what we'll want to do is go into edit mode, selecting the lead, go into edit mode, select faces, and select this face right here, then Shift S and cursor to select it. So now it's in the center of our lead, exactly where we wanted. And now by selecting our curve again, actually tube now because it's a mesh, press tab, go into edit mode, and now we have the spin tool, and it's exactly where we wanted. It's going to rotate our object by the middle of our lead. So if we will just do this, you can see a new menu appearing, right? So I already set this to 12 steps, and you'll see why in just a second. And here is the angle. It's how much do you want it to rotate, really? Uh, and we'll have this, I don't know, 360, I guess should do. So it'll go right till the end. And instead of actually having, because as you can see, it's also basically um, trying to still connect the geometry, we'll want to use duplicates. And what that does is actually duplicating our object on the, I guess, origin of our body, which in our case is the middle of the lead. So this is actually exactly what the array modifier is doing. The only difference is that the array modifier is non-destructive. So basically, when you use the array modifier, it doesn't really matter um, because you can just deselect it and that's about it. However, when you use the spin tool, you're actually creating these bodies, and they are all gonna be the same object, by the way. So it's not like a duplicate object. It's gonna be the same one. You can separate them by themselves, but you know, you have to stay and select each of them and separate them, and that's kind of annoying. And for these kind of objects that you know should be symmetrical, should be in the same place, I don't see a reason why not using this, and why would you ever want to separate them, really? Um, so actually these are too many because as you saw right here, these intersected the body. Okay, so to have a perfectly, almost perfectly symmetrical body, what you want to do is put an uneven number of steps, and then the angle, well, you could play around with it. This is what I did. For me, for 11 steps, it's perfect to 332 degrees, but again, you can play around with it and then get whatever you need. And that's how it looks now, which is actually pretty good. And that's how you use curves, really. And also, this is how we can use the modifiers. Good. Okay, we'll end the video there. This is an extremely long video. I really hope I'm gonna keep it shorter than that. But really, I think all the explanations that I gave were kind of relevant, right? So the good thing about such a long video, we have a pretty good grasp now about the curves. We know kind of how to edit them. We know how to play around with them so that we get kind of what you want. And if you ask my personal opinion, I do think our model evolved pretty well and it actually looks pretty sick. So, with that being said, um, thank you so much for watching, for clicking it in video on the first place, in the first place, sorry. Um, Even if you did not subscribe, which by the way, I would really appreciate, I still thank you so much for clicking through. Yeah, please, if you liked this, leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what your opinion is, what else you want to see. Maybe you want to see something different. I really want to listen to all of you guys, so don't be shy. Write in the comments and tell me what you want. Um, Other than that, really, thank you so much, and see you in the next video, and have a great one. Bye, guys.